Hi there. Today we're going to have a look at solving linear equations, but when there's two unknowns involved in the equation. So from previous lessons, we've solved equations where there has been one letter, one x or one y or one z. But in all the questions we're going to look at in this session, there is two unknowns. So you can see in this question, we're dealing with two letter y's. We need to use an algebraic method to solve the equation using correct notation and method to find a solution to the value of 1y. Okay. How we do that is we need to balance the equation. This is a plus 2, so we are going to subtract 2 from this side. As we subtract 2 from this side, we also need to subtract 2 from this side. That is the equivalent of circling this plus 2, moving it over the equal sign, and making it a negative 2. As we're doing that, we're also going to take this positive 2y, move it over the equal sign in this direction, and it's going to turn to a minus 2y. So mathematically speaking, I've subtracted 2y from this side, and at the same time, I've subtracted 2y from that side. So when we've made those movements, my line of algebra now looks like that. So what we were aiming for was to get all the letters on the same side and all the normal numbers on another side. Now I've got the y's on the same side, I can simplify this. 4y's subtract 2y's is going to leave me with 2y. And if I simplify this side of the equal sign, 22 minus 2 gives me 20. So I've simplified my equation with two unknowns, brought both the y's onto the same side, simplified it, so I now have a one-step equation and just one unknown left in my equation. This here in algebra means 2 multiplied by y. So I'm going to take this multiply by 2, move it onto the other side, where it's going to become a divide by 2. Mathematically speaking, that means I've divided this side by 2, and at the same time, I've divided this side by 2. 20 divided by 2 is going to leave me with the value of y being 10. Let's have a go at another question. 5y minus 1 equals 2y plus 17. So initially, I'm going to add 1 to this side, and at the same time, I'm going to add 1 to this side. I will also need to subtract 2y from this side, and I'll need to subtract 2y from this side. So my second line of algebra is going to look like that. I've took this minus 1, moved it over the equal sign, and its sign has changed to become a positive 1. I've took this positive 2y, moved it over the equal sign, so it has now become a negative 2y. So now I have 5y's minus 2y, which is going to simplify to 3y, and I have 17 plus 1, which is going to simplify to 18. So again, I've simplified my equation from having two unknowns. I've moved them onto the same side, simplified it, so I'm now left with a one-step equation and one unknown. Algebraically, this means 3 multiplied by y, so I'm going to divide this side by 3. At the same time, I'm going to divide this side by 3. So that's going to tell me that the value of y in this case is 6. We could check our answers by balancing this equation at the top. If I take 6 and substitute it into here, as well as substituting it into here, each side of the equal sign should be equal. So if I did 5 multiplied by 6, which is 30, take away 1, this side of the equal sign equals 29. If I went onto this side and did 2 times 6, because I'm substituting in y as 6. That would give me 12. Add on 17. This side of the equal sign also equals 29. Because those sides are balanced, I can be confident that I've found the correct solution. Okay, let's have a look at another question. Okay, I'm looking at this minus 1, and I need it to be on this side of the equal sign. So I'm going to add 1 to this side. At the same time, I'm going to add 1 to this side of the equal sign. Then I'm looking at this minus 3y. I'm going to take this minus 3y, move it onto this side of the equal sign where it will become a plus 3y. Mathematically speaking, I've added 3y here as well as adding 3y here. My next line of algebra looks like that, which I can then simplify to 5y equaling 20. Now I'm left with a one-step equation, which will be 20 divided by 5 to give me the value of y equaling 4. Again, we could use substitution to confirm our answer. Okay, so with this one here, we're beginning with a negative y here. I'm going to take this negative y and I'm going to add it onto this side. So I'm adding a y to each side. At the same time, I'm taking this plus 1, moving it over the equal sign to become a minus 1. So that's the equivalent of subtracting 1 from each side. My second line of algebra now looks like that, where I can simplify this. 11y plus a single y is going to give me 12 y's. 13 minus 1 also going to give me 12. 12 multiplied by y. I take my multiplied 12, move it over here where it becomes a divide. 12 divided by 12, that's going to tell me that the value of y in this question is 1. Okay, last example before I give you a couple of tasks. 5y plus 11 equals 2y minus 10. I'm going to take this 2y, I'm going to subtract 2y from this side, at the same time subtracting 2y from this side. This positive 11 is going to move on to this side, so I'm taking 11 away from this side, at the same time subtracting 11 away from this side. My second line of algebra looks like this. One common mistake to have a look at is this negative 10 here. It does not move over the equal sign. We are not adding 10 or subtracting 10. We're not changing this value at all, which is why it remains as a negative 10 in my second line of algebra. 5y take away 2y leaves me with 3y. Minus 10 subtract 11 takes me in further into my negative numbers. I land on minus 21. Then I go ahead and do the opposite of multiply by 3, because I move it over here. It becomes a divide by 3. Minus 21 divided by 3 tells me the value of y is negative 7. Okay, let's have a go at a couple of tasks. Your first task is here. Remember, at this stage, you have the ability to pause the video when you need to pause it. So down the left-hand side of the screen, there is 6 equations involving 2 unknowns. Down the right side of the screen, there is 6 solutions. Can you match up the correct equation with the correct solution? However, one of the equations does not have a correct solution. We'll call that one the odd one out. So if you'd like to pause the video, have a go at the 6 equations, solving them using the method we've just talked about, matching them up to the correct solutions, and highlighting the odd one out. Okay, welcome back. I'm just about to display my solution. So your answers should look something like that. You can see that I've matched up 5 of the equations to their correct solutions. And the second from the bottom, this equation here, it does not match up with a correct solution as the value of y is 1. So your odd one out in this task is y equals 3, as that does not match up to one of the equations. Could you mark and assess your work and make any corrections that are needed? Okay, your main task is now displayed on the screen. Again, you have the ability to pause the video for as long as needed. Could you work through all 10 questions, solving the equation in front of you? Can you present each question with full working out, showing me some algebraic working out, some notation, some correct method, and then I will show my solutions with full working out after you've had a go at these questions. I have included some questions that involve brackets. I would like you to use your knowledge of expanding brackets to have a go at those questions also. Okay, if you would like to pause the video, could you have a go at finding x in each question? Okay, welcome back. I'm just about to display my solutions, so you should be able to mark and assess your own work by looking at my working out and my solutions. Okay, so there I've displayed my answers. You can see I've tried to show you a few lines of notation, a few lines of working out, just to show some good understanding of the topic, to show that I understand the method and the notation. If we have a look at this answer here, you'll see that we end up with 4x equaling 7. That doesn't divide very nicely. We could have changed it to a decimal, but often we just leave it as a fraction, 7 over 4. Some of the later questions involved brackets. Once you expand the single bracket, you should have noticed that the question looks very similar to the examples we were talking through at the beginning of this video. Okay, could you take some time to mark up your answers, assess your work, reflect on any errors you've made, and make any corrections that are needed? If you got 10 out of 10 for this task, that is excellent. That shows some very good understanding on the topic of solving linear equations with two unknowns.